Bonjour and welcome to France. That's our next stop on our world tour. We are in Europe this week. We have already looked at England and Spain. So today we are on to France. Uh, I am having trouble with my Loom account, so I'm going to try to get this up in the Loom app so you can see the PowerPoint and the video, but just in case I can't, I'm going to be sending out the PowerPoint on the Remind app to your parents, so you will be able to look at it as you listen to this video. So make sure one way or another you get to look at that PowerPoint presentation because there's lots of pictures on this one. All right, so here we go. A little bit about France. The capital is Paris. The currency is the euro. They are also part of the European Union. So the French francs were replaced years ago with the euros. The language is French. Surprise, surprise. They don't have an official religion, but a large majority of the country are Roman Catholic again. So it's a highly Roman Catholic area. Their government right now, it's a democracy. They have a president, and they have a parliament, or a group of people who are elected. Their elected officials make their rules and enforce them. So their government today is very similar to what you see in other countries, including the United States. Now, that wasn't always the case. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let me take a look at the map on the next page, and let's look at geography. Now, you see the France in the map, right in the center, and you can see that it's bordered on several sides by water. The Atlantic Ocean and the English Channel, right where it says United Kingdom, between there and France, that's the English Channel. And on the south side, the Mediterranean. So they've got water on several sides. Then they have Spain, with the Pyrenees Mountains bordering on the south, and then much of the northeastern border is made up of the Alps, another high mountain range. So France is kind of cut off on a lot of sides by mountains. It borders Belgium, Luxembourg, is a tiny little country, Germany, Switzerland, and Italy. So there are several countries to its east. It's interesting to note it is the largest country in Western Europe. Now, Eastern Europe's a whole different story. We'll maybe talk about them later, I don't know. But in Western Europe, it's the largest country. And the word France actually comes from the Latin. When it became part of the Roman Empire, there were a group of people there called the Franks, and it literally means land of the Franks, France. So there you go, a little bit of interesting information. All right, if you, on the PowerPoint, go to the next slide, you are looking at the history. And I have 2 slides on the history because it's a long history. It dates back to prehistoric times. They actually found a cave in southern France that has cave drawings on it, like from cavemen, like prehistoric. So people have lived there thousands of years. It is one of the oldest inhabited places in Europe. A lot of different people came and went, a lot of different tribes and different leaders for the first many centuries. The first one we really know a lot about are the Gauls, and they came in they came in before Christ, several hundred years before that. They were defeated by the Roman Empire. So there you're talking about around the time of Christ up to about 500 years later, about 500 AD. That's when the Roman Empire fell. And from that point on, for well over 1,000 years, about 1,500 years, France went from one set of kings to another set of kings. I'm not even going to bore you with all their names. But a lot of them were named Louis. 19 of them to be exact. So there were a lot of Louis and a lot of different kings and queens that came and went. Around the from about 1000 to 1200 AD, they invaded England and they ruled over England. During part of that time, they also led many of the Crusades. That's where they took a huge army and they went to Jerusalem to fight the Muslim invaders and regain Jerusalem as a holy empire. That was kind of the point of the Crusades. And many of those were led by the French. Well, around that same time, 1400s, the plague, the Black Death, took over many parts of Europe, including France, and thousands of people died from the plague. It wasn't until the 1500s that you had the French Renaissance. That's where you had more people being educated, more people traveling, more people coming from other parts of the world, more people writing and doing art and things like that, architecture. It's kind of basically education took back off. So that's 1500s. On the next slide, it picks up with 15 to 1700s. France was ruled by a king. They had explorers who went out and they claimed colonies in Africa and in the U.S. Hello, we're in Louisiana, which used to be a French colony. They made an empire. Just like Spain and England, they made themselves an empire until the 1700s. So what happened in the 1700s that kind of put things at a halt? A lot of their colonies were either sold off or they gained independence. And in the late 1700s, 1780s, 90s, the French people kind of got sick of their king and queen, and they had the French Revolution. The people revolted. They said they weren't being treated fairly, that the king and the queen were living off in their palace in luxury while people were starving to death. And they got really upset about it, many times rightly so, but they actually had a revolt where they killed the king and queen. They beheaded them with the guillotine. Gross. But a lot of people died at the guillotine. Anyone who was seen as a traitor, who was loyal to the royal family or anything of the sort, was liable to be killed. So they went through a couple years there that were kind of a bloody mess of a civil war before a guy named Napoleon comes to power. And Napoleon wanted to make that empire great again. So he went out and he started conquering land and gaining land for France. And he did that for several years until he kind of lost favor and he lost wars and he didn't plan well and he was exiled. He was sent to a far-off island to live out his years and die. While the French people, they said, we want elected officials, but we're willing to bring back the king's son to have a constitutional monarchy where we have a king, but our elected officials make the rules. And they fought over that for a little over 100 years before finally they said, forget the king, the monarchy, we're just going with the democracy. They elect their president. And that's where they are today. All right, interesting fact. They were the first ones to revive the modern day Olympics in 1898. They're the ones that got together and said, hey, you know, the Greeks had a great idea here with these sports competitions. Maybe we should start doing that again. And there started the modern day Olympics, which they've hosted 4 times. All right, so their economy. What do they have today that makes them money? Number 1 is tourism. Number 2 through 5 is tourism. Basically, they're the most visited country in Europe. And if you look at some of these pictures on the page in the PowerPoint, you'll know why. They have Mediterranean beaches. They have castles. They have the Eiffel Tower. They have the most, some of the most extensive museums, art museums and collections anywhere. So they have just a huge, huge amount of tourism. They're also known for their fashion. You know, Coco Chanel, Christian Dior, all those people, they're French. They have, in agriculture, they have a lot of vineyards and wineries. They have cheese, a lot of dairies with cheese, and they have their French food. The French cooking is some expensive stuff. They are known for their perfume making. And then they do have another manufacturing sector that creates cars, ships, all other kinds of technology. So they do have a good manufacturing economy. They don't have much when it comes to minerals and resources, though. All right, the next page is about food, specifically food. And I listed here some of the different kinds of food they have. They have over 300 types of cheese. Don't mess with a country that has over 300 different types of cheese. Of course, they have their grape juice and wines. Quiche. It's like a pie that's filled with egg and all kinds of vegetables and stuff. It's French. Soufflés. It's French. Croissants. You see a picture of it there. That flaky crusted pastry is French. Crepes. That's like a skinny, skinny pancake filled with fruit and stuff. It's French. So French food is well known. And those are just a few pictures to show that. The next page is on fashion. The beret is a traditional French hat, and you'll see a woman, a black and white picture of a woman wearing a beret. But then you also see some of the more current fashion statements all coming out of France. Sports. They have the French Open. That is one of the top 4 tournaments in tennis. They have the Grand Slam events, 4 of them. French Open is one of them. Soccer, they love their soccer. Skiing, they're in the mountains. They love skiing. Soccer, did I mention they love soccer? Golf, bicycling. The Tour de France is one of the most famous bicycling races in the world. And did I mention they play a lot of soccer? All right, famous people. Again, they have lots of famous people. If I tried to name everybody, it would take up so many slides. I try to condense it down to one with just some of the interesting people in it. Louis Pasteur, about a little over 100 years ago, he is the person who figured out how to pasteurize milk and other items, and found penicillin would kill bacterial infections. Then you have 2 brothers, the Montgolfiers, who invented the hot air balloon. Marie Curie won a Nobel Prize for all the work she did with radioactive materials. You had artists like Monet, and if you look on the PowerPoint, this painting was done by Monet. Then you had a bunch of different authors that made these great stories. The Three Musketeers, The Count of Monte Cristo, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I could go on and on. A lot of writers, a lot of artists, a lot of scientists, a lot of inventors. They had a lot of famous people. That's just a few. All right, fun facts. Let me try to wrap this up. They hosted the Olympics in 1900, 1924, 1960, and 1992. 4 times. French fries are actually originally from Belgium. I mean, they had a type of fried potato, but in World War I, the soldiers actually were in Belgium when they were served French fries, or what we would consider French fries, and they brought it back to the United States after World War I. So French fries, actually Belgian fries. And then the guy who created Braille, his last name was Braille, go figure, he's French. Braille was created in France. Okay, so there you go. That is a super, super condensed version of a huge, huge lesson that would take days and days on France. But hopefully you've enjoyed our little adventure. And you've enjoyed the pictures. You got to see them on the PowerPoint. I encourage you, go to National Geographic Kids and look up France. They have a whole fact file on it. And on Discovery Ed, they have a quick little 5-minute video, 5 fast facts about France. So go check those out. And my challenge to you today is try to make one of those French recipes if you can. Good luck on the challenge. Send me pictures. Bye.